This episode is brought to you by Dime Media. Love supporting local, but looking to save? I've got the solution. Introducing the 2025 CNY Women's Network Members Card. This is your passport to exclusive year-round savings at over 35 amazing women-owned businesses across Central New York. Whether you're grabbing coffee, booking a spa day, or shopping a local boutique, using your members card means more than just discounts. You're empowering women, strengthening small businesses, and building a thriving community one purchase at a time. Want to see all the offers and partner spots? Head to cnywomensnetwork.com/members-card or click the link in our bio. And here's the best part. Join the collective by CNY Women's Network and you'll get your members card free with your annual membership. More details at cnywomensnetwork.com/membership. Let's grow together, one card, one connection, one business at a time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cultivate CNY. I'm your host, Alex Canavan, and in today's episode, I could not be more excited to welcome Holly Conti to the show. Holly Conti is the managing partner of Full Swing Public Relations, a firm that helps purpose-driven brands turn visibility into impact. Alongside her business partner, Caitlin Copple, Holly scaled Full Swing to 7 figures in under 4 years, a milestone only 2% of women-owned businesses reach. Now in their 6th year, Full Swing has been named one of Inc. magazine's fastest growing companies in the Rocky Mountains 2 years in running. Holly is redefining what modern, values-driven PR looks like. She's passionate about changing who gets seen and heard in the media, with a focus on amplifying women-owned, LGBTQ-owned, and mission-led businesses. Earlier this year, she was honored as one of 2024's Q's 50, celebrating successful ventures led by Syracuse University alumni. In this episode, we dive into Holly's path as a founder, what it really takes to scale with intention, and how Full Swing is helping more people lead with purpose and stay visible while doing it. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave us a rating and review. I would appreciate it so much. I've been absolutely loving producing this podcast for you guys, and it would really be helpful if you could leave us a review. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Well, Holly Conti, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
Thanks, Alex. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's an absolute pleasure. You've had a great year.
I was going to say, I just also want to applaud you. I remember watching you from the beginning, and you've really grown this into a big network, a big resource for local women. And I just want to give you a big applause.
Oh my God. It's so funny because we met on a makeup gig of mine.
My sister's wedding, you did my makeup.
Yep. So you were the maid of honor.
Yeah.
And I was doing your makeup. And it was when I had just started CNY Women's Network. And I was telling you about this. At the time, it was still an idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was still something that was just about to start executing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was still in the idea phase. And you were so supportive and sweet and excited for me. And it's just so full circle that we're reconnecting here.
Yeah, I love to see people. Now, my business is a nationwide business. I expand beyond Central New York, but I love to see businesses that are really focusing here in Central New York. And I was so excited for you because I know there are so many women who need that in this area.
Yeah, well, it was something that I needed. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I guess I'll show up and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to get into all things public relations marketing. I mean, I'm really excited because I feel like there's just so many selfish questions I can ask you and so many ways we can take this conversation. But first, I'm just going to start off. I want you to share a little bit about co-founder Full Swing.
Yeah, so that's actually a really interesting story because I'm not a co-founder. So I co-own Full Swing PR with Caitlin Copple. She's my business partner, but she's the founder. And we have a really interesting story. Her and I met at an agency, and we were paired up on a couple of accounts. I was on the account side. She was the PR director. And we got along really well. And in a story for another time, she had kind of a moment where she was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with being, the only woman in the room. I'm done in this agency space. Like, I want to go do my own thing. And at the time, I was 6 months pregnant, and she was like, come with me. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm not ready yet. I wasn't ready to leave the safety of the secure job. So she started the business in a weekend. She had quit her agency job. She had chosen name, logo, website, and had 3 clients by the end of the weekend. And at the time, I was just her friend and I was supporting her. I was helping her choose the logo and I was helping her, proof the website. But I was just her friend supporting her. I moonlit for her that whole year. In her first year, her goal was to just earn her old salary back, and she had done that within 6 months. In that time, I had had my baby, and I started to get more frustrated about where I was. I needed more in my career at that point, and a few things happened that kind of pushed me off the cliff to say, like, "Yes, I'm ready to do this with you." But even then, I didn't come on as her business partner. I came on in February 2020 as her first employee, but within that year, that first year of me being with her, we tripled her revenue together, and we thought, like, we always knew that we had really complementary skill sets. We always knew that we worked really well together. So we decided, like, let's do this together. And so I became an owner of the company, and now we own it 50-50, and we've been growing it ever since. We'll be celebrating our 7th year in business next February. In that first year when we tripled our revenue, we continued to triple our revenue year after year until we hit 7 figures, and then we've been kind of in that realm sustaining that ever since. But I think it just goes to show, like, yeah, we co-own the company. She founded it, and that was her baby. So many business owners, they hold that so tightly. This is mine. And it says a lot about who she was, that she could step in and like kind of build it and then offer it to me. And I could step in and, it took us some time to figure out our groove and like, okay, it's now my baby too. But yeah, now we run it together and the rest is history.
You're right, that says a lot about her character and also her strength, being
Mm-hmm.
able to release control of
Mm-hmm.
something that
Mm-hmm.
is so near and dear
Mhm.
to her and so sacred. And I think that that is the one problem that a lot of leaders have, is the inability to let go of control.
I think that's why I like to tell that story, and I like to point that out because that's something that her and I continue to have to learn again and again, is like we have to build and release, build and
Mhm.
release. We hired a team really early. We are a team of 7 now, including her and I, of full-time employees, and, we've been as big as a team of 10, we've been as few as a team of 3. We keep bringing people on because in order for us to grow, we scaled really quickly. We hit 7 figures in 3 years, under 4 years. We only were able to do that, I think, because we kept hiring and we kept giving things to other people. And if we were holding it too close, we would have been stuck in the same spot, I think, for too long.
Yeah, yeah, and you gotta take risks, right?
Mhm.
And taking on that another employee is, it's a huge responsibility.
Massive.
A lot
Yeah.
of people are afraid of that, of having that much responsibility, and also they're not able to bet on themselves because
Mhm.
like it all falls back on you guys. You guys
Mhm.
have mouths to feed.
Yeah,
And that's it. It's
exactly.
just, anyone getting into building anything. I mean, I think that is the scariest part,
Yeah.
especially if you want to scale.
Yeah, completely.
So what did that scaling look like? You said you tripled like year over year. How does one even know how to do that?
Coaching, we again, it goes back to betting on ourselves and hiring support, and so part of that was we hired a business coach, and we've had some type of business coaching throughout the entirety of our business, and I think that that has helped us know what we don't know, and then I'd also say a lot of testing and failure. The first, I don't know, 3 to 4 years, you don't know what's gonna work, you don't know what's gonna resonate, so you have to just keep putting things out there, and the more that because we can on paper create the best sales process or create the best positioning and have the perfect tagline that we think is really going to loop people in, but you don't really know. You could think it's brilliant when you're looking at the Google Doc, and then you put it out into the world and it falls flat. And so we were getting information. We kept testing what worked, what types of packages, like, we tested 6-week packages and 3-month packages, and we were able to see A, what do people want? B, what do we like delivering? And C, how are we getting what is getting the most results? Because yes, we could sell that 6-week package like that. People loved it, but we didn't love the result. Like you can't get
Yeah, there's no
PR
way.
result. I mean, we
Yeah.
got results for every single one of those clients, but it's not long lasting.
No, yeah,
You get a couple press clips. That's not going to do much.
exactly. And PR is a long game. There's never that I think I mean, I would love to dive into this.
Mm-hmm.
I think they say like PR usually is like the first thing to go in a marketing budget, or usually
Mm-hmm.
the last thing that people have on their priority list.
Mm-hmm.
And before we were recording, you were talking about how this has been a tough year for agencies. And I just
Mm-hmm.
think it's been a tough year for marketing
Mm-hmm.
professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Businesses are struggling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And usually a marketing expense like PR is if there's no tangible or immediate return on investment,
Yeah.
business owners aren't investing in it right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure I mean you guys still have a full roster of
We
clients,
do.
but you're also working on a national scale, of course. But this is something that I am personally struggling with. It's really hard to sell marketing packages right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pockets are tight, and business owners are really worried about keeping the doors open.
Mm-hmm.
So how could they possibly be concerned with marketing expenses that are they're called like vanity, right? A
Mm-hmm.
vanity expense or
Mm-hmm.
something. How would you advise marketing and PR professionals right now in justifying the investment in marketing and PR?
Well, I think that businesses are in a position where they don't want to take as many risks. I was just talking about how we took so many risks early on in our business, and I think that that really benefited us. And that was, at time like we were in the middle of COVID. COVID was great for some industries and really hard for others. There's always some rocky territory as a business to be on, but right now is a hard time to take risks, and I get that. And so I think when people are deciding to make an investment with you, first of all, I th- think they want even more trust and even more security that what they're investing in is going to return to them. And that can be hard if you're in an industry that doesn't have the tangible metrics. For example, like with a paid ad, I can see exactly how many clicked and how much it costs for you to get a conversion. Public relations is a little bit different, right? It's your relation Public relations is your relationship to the public. And what does any meaningful relationship need? It needs you to show up consistently and you need something to talk about. And so at a time when you need to have a strong relationship to your clients, to your potential customers, you need to keep showing up consistently and you need to keep having those conversations, or else your business will be dead in the water. Now is not the time to pull back. Now, I will say that you have to make smart investments and maybe not as many all at once, but now is not the time to step back. It's the time to keep going forward. And I think the people that fail are the people that stop. Never
Hmm.
stop, you never fail. Well,
Exactly.
never stop. Maybe you fail, but you keep going. You'll get to the win eventually.
I say that too. I just say business in general is a game of last man standing.
Mhm.
And when we see businesses fail, usually they fail within the first 5 years or 10 years, right? But it's like, it's because someone gave up.
Yeah.
And sure, they might have been in the red for 5 years and it
Yeah.
really didn't prove to be sustainable. That's another conversation, right?
Yeah.
But I think, especially when we're talking marketing, the whole idea behind marketing and marketing is showing up consistently is staying at top of mind.
Mhm.
Someone might not be obsessed with your brand logo or colors, but you're the first person they think of when they need this product or service. So they're going to go with you. And
Mhm.
that's how you know someone was successful at marketing their product or service. So I love this. I love where this is heading. Let's talk a little bit more about full swing PR, though.
Okay.
Is there a specific area of PR that you specialize in for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, we say we serve underrecognized leaders, so primarily women, LGBTQ plus, BIPOC leaders. But more than that, what we've been honing in on is service-based clients. We also serve authors, we serve nonprofits, but that service-based space, businesses selling, legal expertise, wealth management, architecture, and design. Those are the clients that we have gotten the best results with, and the ones that makes up about 80% of our client roster right now.
what does it look like day to day in your role? Like what does it look like to be running a PR agency?
Yeah, I mean, every day is different, and that's why I like it. When people asked me when I was younger, "What do you wanna be when you grow up?" I said, "I wanna be creative and I wanna be a leader. I wanna be the boss," I think is what I
Same.
said, which is basically entrepreneurship. And so right now, my time is really spent on my team and my clients. And then why we've always hired out is because I like to spend my time working on my business. So Caitlin and I have both been in marketing for 15 plus years, and we have a lot to give to our clients, but we have to also really make sure that we're working in our business to keep our business going. And so it's about we hire all of our team, all of the publicists on our team have 10 plus years of experience. Our project managers are all really experienced, and we have a PR director who ran her own agency for 10 years. So I have clients that come in, and I know it's sometimes a really big selling point to say, like, we don't give you to the junior team, or like who you're talking to in the sales conversation is who your team is. I'm actually really proud of the fact that I still run my sales calls and I'm talking and learning our clients, but then I'm bringing in my PR director, my publicist, and they know their field so well that when a client comes in, they are paired up with a publicist, with a project manager, with a copywriter who can just, dive into their business. And so I'm not necessarily working on my clients so much day to day. I'm working on supporting my team and supporting my business. And then
Mhm.
that also means, of course, supporting my team so that they can get the best results because of course our clients are, my number one priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes complete sense, given that you've been able to scale this business so quickly. I mean, that's what's necessary. You need to be
Mhm.
out closing these deals and getting these clients, and then of course making sure your team is solid and things are running as they should be.
Yeah, but you asked, who do we work with? And it's primarily service-based clients. And I think that that's because we're a service-based business. And so most of our clients' marketing and PR is different for them. They're not selling a $20 book or
Mhm.
$20 a month membership through social media, right? They are selling oftentimes large scale retainers or contracts that really involve a different type of sales process. They can't just hope and pray that a potential client will sign a six-figure deal off of a digital sales funnel. They're not going to see the lead magnet and go to your email
No.
list and hit purchase. And so, because I intimately know what it's like to have to run a service-based business and what marketing is needed for that, I think we're uniquely positioned because we've experienced it ourselves. So we're uniquely positioned to work with our clients because we really understand their process.
And is your team fully remote?
Yeah, we're all completely remote. We have some Central New York clients that I love and I'm so proud of, but we also serve the whole country as well as in Canada. And I've got team members in Los Angeles, in Seattle, in Idaho, which is where Caitlin is from and where her and I met. So random. We could talk about that if you
Did
want.
you worked at an agency in Idaho?
Yeah, in Boise,
Okay.
Idaho. Uh-huh.
Very nice.
Yeah, and for the Central New Yorkers, that's not in the middle of the country. It is all the way over
Yep.
in the Rocky Mountain West. But it's always funny because people are like, What were you doing in the middle of the country?" It's like it's way out there, you guys.
People's
Um,
geography skills way
Mine too.
off.
I didn't know where it was until we moved there.
Until you saw it on the map, yeah.
Yeah, but we're all remote, and there are challenges, but I really like it.
Yeah, let's talk about the challenges. I mean, like, I think that a lot of people can relate to that. I'm I have 2 team members, and we're all here in Syracuse, but a majority of our work is just remote,
Mhm.
because I can't afford to have people full time right now,
Mhm.
so I gotta work around everybody else's
Mhm.
schedules. But, I didn't I never worked in the corporate space, so I don't really know what it looks like or what it takes to run an efficient organization in person or
Mhm.
even remotely too, because this is
Mhm.
my first rodeo.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the struggles you've dealt with running a remote team and scaling for that matter?
I think it's how it can feel for the employee. I think when they are eating, sleeping, working in the same space, it can start to feel really monotonous. And so we try to look at what does our first of all, what do we need to still create those human connections that happen more naturally when you're in person in a break room or sharing a space and you have kind of side conversations? We make sure to build in side conversation time to our remote meetings, right? Like we have our Zoom calls. And I think when you're remote, it's like, I have this Zoom meeting. We're here to talk about task A, B, C. And if we go away from that, then it will feel like we're wasting people's time. But I actually think it's really important to ask people what happened in your weekend. Like, what are you on our Monday meeting? Like, we have like a Monday check-in where we all get together. It's an hour meeting and we're talking about tasks, but we always start with a question of the day. And it's something very random, like what's your favorite recipe, or where's your number one place you want to visit next. And it just starts a conversation. We have 15 minutes where we're just connecting as humans, and that can feel superfluous because we have such big task loads and there's a lot to do. But I think when we are remote and we're in these remote spaces, we have to have that human connection and create those relationships. And then, because people's environments aren't changing as often, we do at least one in-person retreat a year. Caitlin and I try to see our team members when we can, either flying to them or bringing them to us. And we try to also like give our team members little moments of delight so that they can get out of the house and just have more of that dynamic feeling that going to an office can provide.
Yeah, I mean, you guys started the firm during the pandemic, so it's been remote from the start,
Yeah.
right? So
Well, it
you've
was 2019, so it was always intentionally remote. Like,
okay.
Caitlin started it because at the time, she wanted to be able to work abroad. And, I think that's still a goal of hers. So it was always going to be intentionally remote, but then 2020 kind of worked out in our favor in that the working force got a real jumpstart to what, remote is now just something that everyone's used to.
Is there anything you do to feel a little bit more alive in
Mhm.
your role? Like I've recently just joined a co-working space here in Syracuse, which
Yeah.
we've been hosting co-working meetups there for a year now, but I just became a member because I'm just like, I need to get dressed
Yeah.
and I need to go out and be productive.
Yeah.
There's so many distractions at home, whether it's the dog
Yeah.
bothering me and making a mess or
Yeah.
someone making noises and I can't focus. So what do you like to do as a leader that needs to stay productive but also wants to enjoy flexibility and the
Yeah.
environment she's in?
Yeah, I think as a leader, it's really important that I know myself really well and know how to give myself what I need before I ask my team members for anything. And so for me, I kind of lucked out in that most of my team is in Pacific or Mountain Time. And so I've got a really nice morning where once I get my daughter off to school, I can go and walk in the woods. Like even today, it was a busy morning, but I still got myself into nature and went for a walk. And I find that when I do that, I am such a more grounded and present leader and team member. So it always starts with me for a walk in the woods in the morning and a meditation moment and usually a journal moment. And, I'm one of those entrepreneurs that really takes advantage of the whole morning routine thing.
Morning routines are sacred.
Yes.
I am one of those, I need a slow morning.
Yeah, same.
So let's talk about practicing what you preach.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well,
Because you're in the business of PR. So if anyone doesn't like really know, they've heard of PR obviously.
mhm.
But like how exactly do you help your clients get more visibility and have that relationship to the public?
Yeah. So, a traditional sales funnel that most businesses use. So, it's awareness, engagement, conversion. Usually, you're putting all of your awareness at the top, all of your awareness generating activities. That would be public relations, your social media, your speaking on stages or networking. That's all at the top. What we do is we actually created something called the visibility funnel, which is a counterpart to the sales funnel. But what we found is that when you're concentrating all of your awareness generating activities at the top of the funnel, what you're counting on is that the people that have entered your funnel actually you're captivating their attention still. And what now in today's marketplace, It's so loud. Our digital space is so loud. It's so competitive. People are overwhelmed with the amount of businesses coming at them, competing for their attention, not including the news and the other, the personal pieces and the shopping and the this and the that. And so instead of just focusing on staying aware at the top of the funnel, what we have found is that you have to have awareness generating activities at every stage of your funnel. Because if somebody, at the top of the funnel, yes, they found you one time, great. You can't just expect that your engagement emails and your podcasts are going to keep them top of mind. You have to keep showing up again and again. So, for example, I think of public relations as, that song, Let's Give Them Something to Talk About. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I have the worst singing voice.
And no, that was good.
Okay, so you have to give people something to talk about.
Yeah, you
Again,
can't
go,
just be like, "Hi, I'm here. Everybody look at me." You actually have to
yes.
be interesting.
And so PR is, I we won Inc. magazine this year for the second year in a row. Inc. magazine does, big 5,000 fastest growing companies in the country, but then they do like local and regional. Those are for bigger businesses, like that's the Googles and the Apples are on those. But then they have regional, and they rank the smaller businesses that I think you have to be at seven figures in revenue for at least 2 years to be considered. But then once you are, you can apply. And so we got that award, right? And we apply for awards like that for our clients all of the time. What's the point of that? Is it ego based? Is it so that Inc. magazine gets our money? Actually, here's a good example. I saw you, we were at a networking event, and I was like, hey, Alex, we just won Inc. magazine award. Like, I want to come on the podcast and talk about it. And you're like, oh, great. It gave me something to talk about, to engage and nurture you in. Or like if I get one of my clients, say, featured. It's not even a feature about them. Maybe I have a client who's a lawyer and there's a kind of nationwide legal case that's happening and they are just quoted, and maybe it's in Fast Company and they're quoted that it's just a small quote. Well, then what they can do with that, it was placed in the media. It's not enough to just think that that quote is going to do something. What that does is that gives them something to bring to their LinkedIn, to engage, warm leads with. Hey, I just, talked about this and it reminded me of a conversation we had. PR is meaningful conversations, and it gives you something to engage with your people about. And that's how we help our clients, through staying top of mind all of the time and not just relying on those first awareness generating activities to take you all the way to the end.
I mean, it was news to me right up until 2 years ago that these lists that come out, people are applying to be on. It's
Mhm.
not like Forbes isn't doing their research and just discovered you. You captivated Forbes
Mhm.
and now all of a sudden you're on the 30 under 30 list. Like, no, people are submitting applications year after year to get on that list.
Mhm.
Some people are doing, there's also paid placements.
Mhm.
Can we just kind of like demystify how PR works for anyone that's listening that has really big goals for their business and really
Mhm.
hopes to be on one of these lists someday?
Well, let's talk about it. There's traditional media. So there's your news outlets, your digital and print, your magazines. And then there's the non traditional part of PR, which is the podcast, the YouTube, the digital networking spaces, right? So if you're engaging in public relations, you're trying to get in both and get in front of both. You're utilizing other people's YouTube channels, you're utilizing news outlets and all of the trust that they've built with their readers and network for sometimes decades.
Mhm.
And they don't know that you exist, or they don't really care that you exist. The people that you see in those places, whether it's on an award or being quoted in the media, they pitched themselves to be there.
Yeah.
They applied for the award. There are so many 30 under 30 lists, and there are so many great people under 30 who are doing awesome work who've never been recognized. And it's because they've never applied or they didn't have somebody helping them apply. If there is, say, there's a press story on your local news station and they have an expert come in and talk about something, that person was probably put themselves out there. And so what PR does is it allows businesses and leaders to, you are actually going out and pitching to reporters, journalists, podcast hosts, uh, about what you know about, and they invite you on based on that. So it's not like you, Alex, are like scouring the internet looking for the best business owners in Central New York. I mean, maybe you are a
At
little
first I
bit.
was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but for the most part, they're coming to you and you are deciding, what, or at least that's the hope, that they're coming to you and you're deciding like what makes sense based on the goals of your conversations at this moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I started the podcast, I really thought that I would eventually like hit a ceiling and it would
Mhm.
have to like dip back into my
Mhm.
guests
Mhm.
and do part twos for everybody.
Mhm.
But now I'm like, oh my God, there's so many people to interview
Mhm.
and we have a huge wait
And
list.
are they sending
And
to you? Are you getting pitches?
we're getting pitches. We have an application link.
Mhm.
Also, I personally, I get, word of mouth referrals
Mhm.
from previous guests. That's usually like the most effective, I honestly think, is like if I have someone on and they refer someone, hey, you should really reach out to
Mhm.
this person. I think they'd be good for this. Those people are top of mind usually.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have just like a long list of people on my radar that I
Yeah.
got to get to. Like,
Yeah, and that's the thing. PR is not you can't sit at home and hope to be on the Forbes list. You have to put yourself out there. They call it earned media, and you earn it by by applying or pitching and, doing that work to get out.
yeah, yeah. This episode of Cultivate CNY is brought to you by, well, no one yet, but that's about to change. After 2 years of incredible conversations with Central New York's most inspiring leaders, we are officially opening the door to sponsors. That's right. If you'd like to support the show and get your brand in front of a loyal and growing audience, email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship opportunities. All right, back to the show. If you could give any advice to someone who's listening to this right now that is just getting started in their business, but they're really hungry and looking for growth,
Mhm.
they don't have a marketing or PR budget,
Mhm.
how would you advise them to increase visibility?
I think I'd first say what has worked for you in the past. So go back and say it's a coach. Say they're just like a new health coach. And I'd ask them what how did you sell your first client? Maybe they've had one client. Okay, how did they sell it? It was based on my network. Okay, so now you know that your personal network is a good spot for you to start. So now you do activities around that. And it's not just, there's an example. So I went back, I was curious, like, how have we gotten our most recent clients? And I went back to our latest client, and it was a referral. And you would think that that has nothing to do with public relations, right? If I said it was a referral, would you say, like, that's marketing and PR? Would you think it is?
I would say it's PR, yeah. But
Yeah,
it's just because I like
because
understand what PR, because PR takes so many different forms.
yeah.
Like people don't understand that we now work with clients to present an event for them
Mhm.
and make them the focal point and
Yeah,
really put them on a pedestal, right?
yeah.
Some people call it experiential marketing.
Mhm,
Experiential marketing, I perceive it as a PR service
mhm,
because we're putting you in direct contact with the public, with our audience in this
mhm,
case. But
mhm.
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think that that makes sense. I think a lot of people would think that, oh, it's just my referral network, so I have to go start doing what more one to one. I have to go do more coffee dates and more this and more that. And last person who came to us from a referral, when I found out who the referral was, it was someone that we hadn't worked with actually, Caitlin nor I had ever worked with her at Full Swing. She knew us like through, networking events in many, many years ago. But she followed us on LinkedIn because of old networking and saw our awards and saw our speaking engagements and saw our podcast and saw us talking about our client wins. And so then when somebody came to her and said, "Do you know a PR agency?" She knew us. Right? And we didn't even know who that person. We wouldn't even been able to remember her name at that point. But she was able to refer us based on, us staying top of mind for her. So I think going back to I don't remember exactly why I went there to that specific example, but I think it's really interesting to show like the step by step of like how tangible and non-tangible the type of activities like pitching yourself to the media can happen. But going back to that like really hungry person who's maybe a health coach and doesn't have a marketing and PR budget, if you can do one thing to stay visible, if there's like if you can feed one channel to grow, maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's Substack, maybe it's PR. What is the thing that you naturally gravitate to as a business owner? If you hate Instagram, I wouldn't say that Instagram is your best bet, even if 10 other business coaches are saying that you can't grow as a health coach if you're not on Instagram. Okay, all you have to do is replace the Instagram with one thing that's going to continue to keep feeding visibility. Maybe for you, you're a writer, and so you'd rather spend a lot of time on Substack. Or maybe you really like talking to yourself in a microphone, so you start your podcast and like grow it in that way. Choose one activity that you naturally like doing, you'll do it more, and people will recognize that you like it, and you'll naturally, grow that.
It always comes down to it's a numbers game.
Mhm.
So finding the form of content that you prefer to create the most,
Mhm.
I would say is definitely a great place to start. And even, starting a podcast, it doesn't have to be, as high tech or
No,
is super
doesn't have to be
produced.
this.
Like we see more casual podcasts that pop up and do very,
Mhm.
very well. So it's really just, I think, just getting creative and
Yeah.
being resourceful.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I'd say is test and refine, test and refine. You don't know what's going to work until you test it. So try something and get the feedback about how it felt for you. If it worked, keep testing things until you find what works. That's how we grew our business.
If a business was looking to spend money
Mhm.
in PR or marketing right now,
Mhm.
where would you advise them to spend it?
If they want to hire public relations, you mean, or
Yeah, if they're like, I need more visibility, I'm gonna hire full swing PR.
mhm.
What are we doing? Are we going on Good Morning America or Joe Rogan?
What are your business goals? Is it gonna help you that much to be on Good Morning America, Alex? Maybe. But
I think it depends on what you sell, right?
yeah, I think it really depends. What we always ask our clients is, what are your business goals? If your business goals are Good Morning America is going to get you a lot of web traffic and it's going to get you a lot of credibility. You can go back, if you're a local business, you can go back and say, like, we are on Good Morning America. But I know I can think of several businesses that I know who weren't our clients who got featured on Good Morning America and it did nothing for their business because they didn't really there was really no point other than to have the clout of we were on Good Morning America. They were local businesses that needed local people to know about them, to ask about them, to engage with them and hire them.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I would say you have to look at I don't care about the placement. I think a lot of PR firms, the win is the placement, right? Okay, you got the win. You got on Forbes, you got on Fast Company, you got on GMA. Then we did our job. For us as a firm, we are looking at what next? Why? What's the point of that win? And if the point is more revenue, then how are we making sure that that one little GMA clip is actually going to translate into revenue? And often then that allows us to decide, oh, it's not actually Good Morning America that we need. We actually need to get you on a really niche podcast that is filled with dedicated listeners who represent your ideal client. And if we do 30 minutes with you in that podcast and those people hear you, you'll have clients from that. Like, that's what we care about. So that's what I would say. What are your business goals? And then choose the tactic is going to feed your business goals.
I want to talk a little bit more about your journey as an entrepreneur, kind of rewind a little bit. Very few women-owned businesses ever reach seven figures.
2%.
Yeah, very 2%. That is an alarmingly low percentage.
And women start businesses at a faster rate than men.
What do you think has set you guys apart? Why do you think you guys have been so successful? Has it been because you've just simply believed you could?
Yeah, I think that we wanted to. I think when we heard that stat, we're like, well, we can be one of those. And even that belief in ourselves, there was some confidence in that, right? That we don't always have as women. I think that women tend to have a lot of pressures on them outside of their careers. And whether it's family, whether it's friends, parents, we have a lot of pressure on us outside of just jobs. And
A lot of hats
um,
to wear.
a lot of hats to wear. Yeah. And also I think, okay, Holly, why are you talking about the fact that you hit seven figures? Or why are you talking about Inc. magazine and your second win? It's because if I didn't know what having a seven-figure business looked like. I thought it was this big, massive thing. And now, the more that I see women talking about what they're bringing in, the more that I recognize what it looks like and that I have the, like, oh, I could get that. I could have that. I think we don't see it enough. And so that's why it's A, important for me to talk about it. And B, that's why we wanted to do it.
Yeah, it kind of makes it it's not necessarily bragging, right?
Yeah.
But also being in PR, you understand the importance of sharing your wins.
Yeah.
I think that's a trap that a lot of leaders that are, humble and generous people,
Yeah.
they don't share their wins enough. But there's a
Yeah.
reason to that. And it's not necessarily to gloat or act like
Yeah.
you're better than. It's simply if I can do it, you can do it too.
Hmm.
And it's not as big and scary as you think it is.
Yeah.
Which like me personally, I still think seven figures, wow. Like how could I ever get there?
Yeah.
But if you continue to think that way, you'll never get there.
Or yeah, but now that we've talked, like I could maybe demystify it hopefully with you a little bit and kind of, and then maybe you meet somebody else who's done it. And we don't have a big team like you did as well. When we were a couple years in, it was only Caitlin and I and one other person. And yeah, I think it's important to, if you have a dream, to go for it,
Yeah.
even if it feels really far-fetched.
Yeah, well, your attitude is just so great about that. But I think that's why you've been so highly successful, honestly.
Thank you. And we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
Because okay, if I'm
But
honest,
I also think the fact that you guys were smart enough to get help and that you've
yeah.
had a business coach the entire way through,
Yeah.
that's also been a huge differentiator. Like I think a lot of business owners don't seek out the help until it's too late.
Yeah. And every time that we've invested in in coaching, even if it wasn't the best coaching, even if wasn't the greatest, it pushed us to the next level. We took something from it. And every time we invested, we got that money back. Not because the teacher was amazing, or in some cases they were, but because we were applying ourselves. We were continuing to push ourselves to find new ideas, to find new ways of doing things. And that's what kept moving us forward. But the coaching was kind of like giving us more answers because you don't know what you don't know. And so we just needed people to keep paving the path for us.
And in this era of life right now as a business owner, I mean, you've clearly built a successful business with your partner. What has that been like? What has that taught you about relationships and partnership in general?
You have to do therapy. You have
Both
to do
people
your personal
must be in
work
therapy.
all the
That is a
time.
requirement.
Caitlin and I always say, I trust you with my mortgage. And also, like, I think her and I are both really committed to our own personal work. I think that you can't truly collaborate with someone if you have blocks and defenses up. And so it's my job to put my blocks down, my defenses. Like, I used to be really afraid of, like, not being smart enough. And so I wouldn't ask questions. I wouldn't want people to know that I didn't know the answer. And when I released that and put that down, it allowed me to ask really smart questions that would at times get her and I, or me and a client, to a much more thoughtful space a lot quicker. And with Caitlin, I think both of us, we're committed to doing our own personal work so that we can come to the partnership as whole as we can in that moment and have the conversations that we need to have. And sometimes they're hard and sometimes they're fun, but we have to be first taking care of our side of the street before we can collaborate.
Are there any rituals or just things that you do to kind of keep that peace in your day-to-day life? Like what is your morning routine look like?
It's all about the nature.
Okay. So
So
you have to get outside then.
I have to get outside in the morning. I am not historically a morning person, but I recently have been testing what it's like to wake up at 6 a.m. I'm not sure I'm ready to report back yet.
We're still figuring that out.
We're still figuring it out, but I try every day to walk in nature, meditate, and journal. But then I'm also constantly doing listening to podcasts, listening to, like, self help, personal growth. I think most entrepreneurs are that way, I
Yeah.
would guess. And I think they go hand in hand. You're always having to work on yourself in order to be your best self for the business.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love it too, though. You gotta enjoy the journey, and I think, like, you like a challenge,
Hmm.
and, I can always tell when my going back to the blockages thing that you said, it's being able to take the temperature and where you're at and to understand that you're having an issue today, you need to let this go before it gets in the way
Mhm.
of business or
Mhm.
whatever you have to get done that day.
Mhm.
I think it's just like, I'm sure that in PR and the specific industry that you're in, it can be a little overstimulating. Is that
Mhm.
is that true? It's
Yes.
very just high energy,
Yeah.
high
It's a lot of
stakes.
output.
Yeah.
It's a lot of output, a lot of pitching, a lot of teamwork, a lot of conversations with your clients. Yeah, the output is high.
And so how do you balance that with being a mother and a wife? I'm not a mother or a wife, but I'm a partner and I just feel like I spend my entire day pouring into people and having conversations and taking on people's worries and kind of being that beacon of light for a lot of people, and I
Mhm.
love it. I
Mhm.
think that this is truly the role that I'm supposed to be in because I
Mhm.
truly enjoy making people feel better. But I have found that I'm usually left with little to nothing when I go home,
Yeah.
and I have to be a source of happiness and light to everybody else in my life.
Yeah.
So lately I've been really feeling it and trying to like balance that and not allow myself to get burnt out.
Mhm.
But I'm just curious with someone like you that's in a similar space, how
Mhm.
do you do that?
I think that balance is a joke, and I think we can always try to strive for it, but the truth is that sometimes we're giving more over here, and this part of our life is kind of behind. I try every day. I try to construct my day so that at every point I'm giving a lot in one space and I'm not thinking about the other things behind. So, if I'm really in business mode, then I have to be in business mode and not be in mom mode. But as soon as my daughter gets home, and it's hard, but like as soon as my daughter gets home, I try to transition into mom time and parent time and family time, and work gets off the back end or is on the back burner. I try to structure my days so that I'm really present in what I'm doing. And that allows, I think time is our most precious resource. And the only way to kind of serve that balance is it's not going to be equal all the time. So you have to be in what you're in when you're in it and not worry about the thing that you're leaving behind. So it's sometimes hard at work to think like, oh, my daughter's at school and I feel guilty about that or whatever. No, my daughter's at school. She's doing what she has to do right now, and I'm going to focus. And then I'm going to get what I need to get done at work so that when I go home, I can take care of her. And in the morning, I'm going to take care of nobody because I'm going to take care of me so that I'm full through my day.
I think really starting off the day with that, I'm gonna take care of me, so then you can show up the rest of the day with the glass full and
Mhm.
not running from an empty tank. I'm curious about time though. Lately, I feel like I just spend most of my time in meetings,
Mhm.
and I know that I need to start being more careful about that
You need
and
more
maybe
boundaries.
delegating more. I need more. I mean, I also just think that I need to work smarter,
Mhm.
and not harder.
Mhm.
And I'm in this place where I'm like, I'm in all these meetings, but nothing is getting done.
Mhm.
And I think it's a little bit has to do with the fact that this is my first time in the role that I'm in,
Mhm.
and I think that there's a part of it has to do with I don't really know how to run efficient meetings,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I just need to have more of a strategy behind it.
Mhm.
But I think what I want to ask you is how are you structuring your week? Your week, because I'm sure you are also in a lot of meetings and you
Mhm.
have a lot of projects to manage.
Mhm.
And like we host like 6 events a month.
Mhm.
So I feel like events and event planning takes a lot of my time, but I'm in this turning point in the business where I need to be just focusing on pitching
Mhm.
as much as possible
Mhm.
and monetizing.
Mhm.
So I need to be working on pitch decks and our sales strategy more than anything else. But I
Mhm.
feel like I'm constantly distracted by things that are very important but aren't actually moving the needle.
Mhm.
So what would you recommend, like whether it's here's some time management hacks or here's what you need to look at and you need to go to back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I'd ask yourself what is the most important result of your work, your role, not even you, Alex, like your role. If you are wearing the role of CEO, what is the result that the CEO needs to be producing? Versus, like in my business, I'm the managing partner. So my result is a profitable business. And so my days are in meetings constantly. And that's because I'm meeting clients, I'm meeting potential clients, I'm meeting my team, I am doing interviews, I'm focusing on my visibility and my growth and making sure that clients are happy, team is happy so that they can get clients the result they need and that people know about my business and what my business is so that I can bring in the revenue that I need to. Versus my publicist, the main result of her job is wins for her client. So her days, if my days have 6 hours worth of meetings, which is typical, most days do, hers has like an hour meeting a day at most because her main result is her client wins. And so she needs to be not talking to people. I
Yeah.
have to be talking to people because it's directly related to my bottom line. But for her, she needs to be talking to the media. So she can't be
Yeah.
distracted on calls. And so I would ask you, what is the result that I need to be feeding most? And are my activities actually doing that? And if not, then you need to hire.
Yeah.
Even like fractional support or yeah.
Yeah.
You need to keep working yourself out of a job. What I learned about scaling was that you have to keep working yourself out of a job. At one point it was Caitlin and I doing the work. It was Caitlin doing the pitching and me doing all of the client management. And really quickly we had to bring someone in to do that so that we could keep then doing our pieces for the business. And now, we have enough money to at least hire someone to do the client work, then we keep working on the business, et cetera, et cetera. We keep working ourselves out of a job and taking things off of our plate so we can keep growing and wearing new hats as the business owners.
Yeah. And how did you know who to hire next? Like, is that where the business coach came in terms of scaling? Because I think that's one of the hardest parts of growing a business is like, okay, I can tell I need help,
Mhm.
but how do I afford help? Like,
Mhm.
how do I actually make this something I can take on?
Mhm.
And who's the right person for the job? And where do I need to delegate first? Right.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, again, what are you doing that you shouldn't be doing anymore that's not actually
Yeah.
serving the business? And then that will be clear on like, do you need a bookkeeper? Do you need a, like, even if it's small things like that, do you need a house cleaner? Even think about it, even in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where am I spending my time that's not getting me what I need most for my business? And then because those are smaller things, right? Hiring a house cleaner to support you with some of those at home duties so that you can, spend more time over here on growing the business, that's going to be a lot more manageable than maybe hiring a full employee or hiring a bookkeeper, right, is a lot more accessible than a full-time employee.
Yeah. I I need someone to plan these darn events, man.
So you need an event planner
Yeah.
or a coordinator.
It's just like really hard because I think our perspective on events is like very business minded and
Mhm.
you know, also like what I'm trying to do here
Mhm.
is like brand new to
Yeah.
this area. Like there's
Yeah.
no
There's
one
no model.
no model, right?
Mhm.
And so it's when it comes to talent,
Mhm.
it's tough because I feel like the roles that I'm looking to fill are like brand new,
Mhm.
kind of.
Mhm.
So usually, like I know of so many amazing event planners, but what I really need is like a PR person that
Mhm.
can be reaching out to potential partners or sponsors so
Yeah.
we can plan the event in the first place.
Mhm.
And then how are we plugging those brands and integrating them throughout the event? And then also how are we making the event profitable
Yeah.
through ticket revenue?
Mhm.
And it's just there's so many facets of the event planning that like someone who specializes in weddings that's
Yeah.
just given a budget and
Yeah.
everything is going to get paid for regardless.
Yeah.
And all they have to do is stay within that budget
Yeah.
and make it beautiful.
It's different.
It's different. So I think at first I was like, I need an event planner, but what I really needed was like a PR and communications person because
Yeah.
it really a majority of the event planning is really just pitching and coordinating
Yeah.
vendors and stuff like that.
And do you have a system that works within your business for the event planning? Like, have you created a structure of like, this is how I, Alex, do an event?
I haven't created like a blueprint, no.
Hmm. Because I
Um,
think that that could even, then you could bring in a coordinator,
yeah.
say, who's maybe not as senior, so maybe not as expensive, but who could follow your approach. Because that's how Caitlin and I would always do it too is, okay, this is how we do it. Now you go do it. Like we've
Mhm.
perfected the system. Now,
You would just create the SOP
yeah,
yourself and
yeah,
then just pass it off.
yeah,
Yeah. We have a little bit of an SOP going, and it's like event to event is very different. So we need an SOP for every specific kind of event.
yeah.
But 2024 was a huge year for us in terms of like getting things off the ground. So we
Mhm,
launched our membership
mhm,
community, we
mhm,
launched our members card,
mhm,
and then there's a lot of firsts with
mhm,
events.
mhm,
And this year there's still plenty of firsts, but we now have more of an idea of like, okay, what events are we definitely hosting throughout
mhm,
every year? Like,
mhm.
what events are we hosting annually, every month, all that good stuff. So I feel like after 2025, we will have the blueprint for
Yeah,
it and it'll be much easier to scale. But
yeah.
that's the hardest part, man, is scaling. Cause
Well,
it's takes so much work to when you know how to do something, it's just like so much easier to just do it. Like,
mhm,
I know how to do it and I know it'll get done. So I'll show up and do it.
mhm. But it's
Um,
at the price of your growth.
it is.
And you have to remind yourself that. And then those are the instances where the whole betting on yourself comes into play because there are times where we've brought in support and we knew, like, okay, we're going to find a way to figure this out and pay for it. But we didn't always know how we were going to be able to pay for
You just
it. And
figured it out.
yeah. And like, that's why CFOs don't always like us. But, you know, but also it's what allowed us to grow. And we did always figure it out. We did always find our way. And sometimes when we would bet on ourselves and make those investments in people, it really did free up our time so we could go sell or do what we needed to do to keep the business moving forward.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, you have to have no choice.
Mhm.
Like, if you'll make it work if you don't have any other
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
What does Caitlin really cover day to day? If you're, like, managing partner, what is she really taking on?
So she's the CEO. So if she's the CEO and I'm the managing partner, she's the visionary. I mean, I would say both of us. It's interesting because in most partnerships, I think there's somebody who's a visionary and someone who's that integrator. I don't know if
Mhm.
you're familiar with that. And I think that although often I can play that integrator role, we both have those visionaries, but of the risk taking of the growth, she's always the one of the two of us that's going to push us forward more. I clearly am a risk taker, or else I wouldn't have jumped off the cliff with her. But she's always the one showing me the cliff.
I love that.
Yeah, she's the one that's always going to push us to the next level,
That's so special.
and it works that we end up working together, and I usually say yes to the jumping off the cliff, or I say no for a good reason.
Well, I wish I had someone like you, honestly. That's what I need. I'm learning more and more every day about integration and
Hmm.
just operations in general, but definitely more of the visionary type.
Yeah,
So it's frustrating for me to be in a role where I want so badly to get this to where I see
yeah,
it, but I'm stuck
yeah.
in these operating
I was gonna
roles.
say, I feel like you need operations support.
Yeah.
There's some great fractional operations. Like, you know how there's fractional CFOs. There are people who work fractionally in the operations space that might be good for you.
Yeah. I do want to get your take on PR versus marketing. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people lump these two things together. How would you explain the difference between the two?
I think PR and marketing are siblings in the same family, and I don't think they're separate of one another. Visibility, which is what PR is necessary at every stage of your sales funnel, and marketing, I think, is necessary at every stage of the sales funnel. So if marketing is the emails and the digital ads and the social media, public relations is the press clips and the podcasts and the stage exposure. You need both in order to get the sale. So they are working in the same family to get the same result. Both serve sales, and you need both of them to work together.
What do you think the best form of media is right now for people to invest in?
You're going to like the answer to this, Alex. What I'm seeing in 2025 right now, if I were to say, like, what is the media that I get my clients in that produces the most sales for them? Because I'm ultimately focused on bottom line results. For us, like, PR is just a win. PR is just a press clip and will do nothing for your business if you're not doing something with that press clip. And what I found is that when we get our clients in podcasts, this year in particular, that is what is actually leading to sales right now. So I can get my client, an award and that's great, but then I use that award to pitch them onto a podcast. I had a client who she is in a service-based business and typically her sales process is that she meets with a new lead and she has 3 to 4 conversations with them before they go to contract. We had gotten her on an industry related. She serves construction companies. She does learning and development for construction companies. So very, very niche
Yeah.
field. We got her in a learning and development podcast that has really dedicated listenership. It's not a well-known podcast. Nobody would know the name of it, but they have people who listen to them weekly.
Mhm.
And she went into a sales call that she thought was a cold lead. She didn't know these people. And she walked in and they had already listened to her podcast and they had spent an hour listening to her interview. And so they went into this podcast essentially just wanting to meet her and wanting to like, okay, you're real. Great. We're ready to sign.
Yeah.
We know how you get results for your clients. We know how you deliver. We know who you are and we feel like we trust you because we spent an hour listening to you.
Yep. So they
She
already
signed a
like
six-figure deal off of that podcast that nobody's heard of. I would much rather have a client on a podcast that no one's heard of versus GMA if those are the different results.
yeah, yeah, because it really is all about who the viewer is. So
Mhm.
even if it's not, you know, one of these insanely huge podcasts that we're all familiar with, but given that you knew that that podcast had such a niched
Mhm.
and captive audience, it didn't
Mhm.
matter whether it was like 200 people tuning in every week or 200,000.
Yeah.
There's more results, I think, in that community that is much more narrowed down.
Yeah.
But also it's like that's a really good point because when she went into that meeting, it was almost like they had already decided they were going to work
They
with
had
her.
already done the discovery call. And so that's what's really interesting. Again, because most of our clients are service based, they have built their business usually off of word of mouth, referrals, their own network, and their ability to do their job really well. And so they have to go out and do one to one coffee dates and do networking events. And that works for a time, but at some point there's a cap on that. You can't scale that. And
Mhm.
so I think podcasts do a really great job of she has had the same conversation that she would in a one-to-one coffee date with that podcast person, but it was one to many. So one potential client found that but so many other people who could turn into clients also had that same conversation. And so I think PR scales your networking and scales your relationship building. And podcasts in particular, I think this year and beyond are a great way to start to intimately understand a brand or a business owner or a leader because it's a deep in depth conversation. You can't have that when you're just quoted in a
Yeah.
article.
And just like a soundbite, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
people need more of you. And so usually when I'm talking to someone about my podcast, someone who's like interested in jumping the wait list
Mhm.
and they're like, "No, I wanna be on now."
Mhm.
We usually will do a sponsored
Mhm.
route for that, and so
Yeah.
they'll sponsor their episode. What I say is it's nice to have this long form conversation
Mhm.
because it's not just the typical short form social media clip where all you're talking about is this, you know, the salesy part of what
Mhm.
you do. It's
Mhm.
like, who are you? People can really feel your energy.
Mhm.
And, you know, when people do decide to engage in services that are more high ticket or like
Mhm.
if they are a service
Mhm.
provider that really works with people, you know, it's harder to sell their product, right?
Mhm.
So you do need that long form conversation to
Mhm.
really sell yourself, which usually would require a coffee meet.
In the traditional media, that would have been like a big spread in a magazine. Those are really hard to get. We still work on getting those for our clients and they have immense value as well. But now there's there's other opportunities to have those big features like you would in a big spread in a magazine, and podcasts do that. It's that long form relationship building, and it really makes a big difference.
That makes sense. The centerfold.
This is
This is the modern
the
version of
modern
that.
version of the centerfold. PR, the 2025 version of the centerfold.
But it's, like, so much better too, because it's not just this editorial version of
Mhm.
yourself. People get to feel you I
Like
say
you
feel
said,
your
feel the
energy, but
energy.
you can use your humor, your
Mhm,
personality gets a moment to shine, you can be
mhm,
vulnerable, and
mhm.
you just don't get that with short form, like, social media features
Yeah,
or other the other forms of content that we see nowadays.
completely.
Where do you see Full Swing going in 2025? I know we're already halfway through the year, but do you have anything exciting coming up?
Yeah, so we're really excited. We're about to launch a new website, some new branding. Maybe by the time this podcast episode comes out, that'll be available, but I don't know. We'll see. It's like the shoe cobbler's daughter. It always takes us
Yeah.
longer to do it for ourselves.
So you
Um,
guys are doing it
we
in-house?
actually aren't even doing it in house. We hired someone, but
Okay.
even our spending our time to work on that, it's like I said, it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
hard. Yeah, you know how it goes.
It's tough, like, I've outsourced people to do things,
Yeah,
but
it
and
still needs
you
your
think
input.
exactly, and I didn't realize that at
Yeah,
certain times. It's
yeah,
like, you just think that you can just pay the retainer and everything will be done for you, but if you don't have the time to dedicate to that project, you're never
yeah.
gonna get your money's worth.
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly it.
yeah.
So we're really excited about that. It is almost there.
What
And
was the
then
intention behind the rebrand? Why did you guys decided to rebrand?
well, I mean, the logo, the colors, everything was a result of that one weekend of fury when Caitlin quit her job and decided to start Full Swing. So that was in 2019, and we've evolved since then. And so it was ready for our branding to, although we had redone our website since then, we wanted a visual presence that represented who we are today. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And then, in addition to that, we're launching something called the Visibility Scorecard, where we're going to be helping businesses score themselves on what is their visibility score and what could they be doing to be visible and what are they not doing, and kind of seeing where the holes and opportunities are for their visibility. Because, like I said, right now is an uncertain time for a lot of businesses, and so if your goal is to still have a thriving business with customers and clients and products sold, then you need to keep being out there. And so we want to give our clients an opportunity, or potential clients an opportunity, to see where they can up the ante in their visibility.
That's so what inspired that whole project?
I think conversations, I mean, a lot of this conversations with potential clients, and what we're seeing, our business itself, like we've been recognizing, like we're also noticing what people are needing. We primarily work on 6 month or 12-month retainers, but we're seeing right now, based on the feedback that we're getting from clients, even though we've been working that way for 6 years now, people don't wanna make that big of an investment, and we get it, like, we understand that, and, so it's us kind of trying to meet the market where it is right now, and the market needs, more specific resources, more tangible resources, and, more vision into what PR is and could do for them. And so the scorecard for us is an opportunity to help clients understand what visibility is and how they can get the right return
Yeah.
on it if they invest
Yeah.
with us or somebody else. It's a way to help businesses understand just how to uh, quantify the investment of PR.
Yeah, which is huge. I feel like just in your sales strategy in general,
Hmm.
I feel like that
Hmm.
might be the area that PR professionals or firms struggle with the most is how to communicate and quantify the return
Hmm.
on their clients' investments. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. That's exciting. It sounds like you saw a need in your industry and you just uh said, "Okay, let's show up and do it."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, if anyone listens to this episode, Holly, and they're just dying to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
You can find me all over online. Fullswingpr.com is going to be the best way. On LinkedIn, I'm Holly Conti. And on all the social media handles, we're at FullSwingPR.
I love it. Thank you so much, Holly, for joining me.
Thanks,
This was an
Alex.
absolute pleasure, and I look forward to watching the continued growth of Full Swing PR.
Thanks. Me too. Thank you, Alex.
Whether this is your first time tuning in or you've been listening since the beginning, I do not take it for granted. When I started this podcast, I honestly didn't know where it would go. I just knew that I wanted to have real conversations with people doing meaningful work right here in Central New York. 2 years in, this still feels like a dream, but I also know that we are just getting started. If you enjoy what we do here, please join the 32% of people who tune into the show regularly and follow us on this app. And here's my promise to you: I'll keep showing up with my whole heart. I'll keep inviting guests who inspire me and asking the questions that I know matter most to people like us, people building something right here in CNY. So thank you for being a part of this.